Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Starcastic Remarks alongside Chris, my brother, and friend of the show, Juraj Kralik. We are the official Dallas Stars podcast, and I am Ryan. I should have said that beforehand. Thank you to all of you who are watching us live on YouTube. Please consider clicking like and subscribe if this is your first time here. Hit that notification bell so you never miss an episode of Starcastic Remarks. We always have content going throughout the offseason. If you are a Dallas Stars fan or even just a casual hockey fan, we would love to have you here. We're trying to hit 1,000 subscribers here. We're just a little over 100 away from hitting that goal. I want to start off the show today with something kind of random, but it was also kind of interesting at the same time. So I'm gonna bring up this picture, okay? And for those of you who don't know my wife, that's my wife right here with my youngest daughter, Allison. But that right there is Tony Hawk.
That guy looks like Tony Hawk.
He was just randomly in Anna, Texas today, and my wife Amanda took our youngest two to the splash pad there in Anna, and it just so happened that he just happened to be there. And I didn't believe her at first, and then sure enough, she sends me a picture, and I'm like, wow, that is actually kind of crazy. So I know it's kind of random, but it's not every day that you get to talk about Tony Hawk on a hockey podcast. So it just kind of random thing and just fun thing to kind of start off the day. So
man, wouldn't it be cool if that was actually Tony Hawk? So many people look like him. Crazy.
Chris is saying that because of a group chat thing I said. He's making fun of me. So, but
actually, he looks taller. Like I thought
he's massive.
Yeah, he's like 6'3". He's 6'3". So
get him on skates.
Yeah. Anyways, but we got to actually say hello to Juraj, who is no longer a European. He is in the land down under in Australia. How are you doing, man?
That's right. Happy to be here, Ryan. Thanks for having me. It's pretty chilly morning here in Australia right now. So yeah, enjoying that.
Well, for you, it's been just back-to-back winters is what you were telling us off air right before we got on the recording here. It's just like, you're dealing with, negative weather, not fun weather right now. So,
yeah, I mean, just when you escape the European winter, you hop straight into Australian one. So, yeah, but I mean, at least it's not freezing in Australia that much, so we can handle it.
Yeah, good, nice. Well, before we get into anything else, I do want to let Chris do a quick plug if he wants to say anything about. He just did an episode with Locked On Stars where he went deep down with Joey into the Texas Stars season, about Neil Graham, and a little bit also about some of the Dallas Stars head coaching stuff too. So, Chris, did you have fun on that?
Yeah, there's the plug. Check out Locked On Stars.
There you go. Sorry, I kind of stole your thunder there for you, but anyways, you really should go check it out. It was a really good episode. So today specifically, why Juraj is here and why I wanted him to come on is he has been doing some mock off-season roster stuff on Puckpedia, and he actually got me into it in a little bit, and we'll go over my unpopular roster here in a second. But so what do you think, first off, Juraj, about the firing of Pete DeBoer? Like, first off, were you surprised about it? And second off, do you think it was the right move?
You know what? Like, when I saw the news, popped on my screen, I was like, huh. That was my first reaction. I was a bit surprised, but after maybe thinking about it a little bit, then the writing has been on the wall, kind of, right? For Pete DeBoer, right? He's been reaching these conference finals left and right. Like, he's been actually fantastic regular season coach, but for some reason he was pushing all the buttons with this roster for 3 years, and I just think he just ran out of his voice in the room, honestly. Like, and good on Jim Nill, honestly, because some GMs would probably just let his contract run out and probably fire him mid-season next year. And he saw it coming and he was proactive. And that's what I always tell about GM job and about Jim Nill, specifically, like, it's better to be proactive than inactive. And he probably saw the writing on the wall as well. And that's where he figured, well, maybe it is time for a change. Maybe the leadership group didn't appreciate or didn't have any more buttons to push with Pete DeBoer. So some new fresh voice can actually be really helpful. I mean, when you look down to the history, you don't need to go that far. Look at Edmonton right now. Look at Florida as well. They all changed their coaches, which has been good coaches for them. Like Jay Woodcroft in Edmonton was actually a pretty good coach. Same with Andrew Brunette in Florida. I mean, hell, even Pittsburgh won a cup with Mike Sullivan being an interim coach in the 2015-16 season. So I don't see this as some sort of catastrophe at all. I see this as a natural progress for the Stars roster because it's going to be made of young players mostly. And these young players actually maybe will listen to some other and different voice that's going to talk to them differently than Pete DeBoer. Because as you could saw, maybe you saw the Matt Duchene interview from the ticket tonight or yesterday. And he was actually loving the time with Pete DeBoer, but he's a veteran. He's a veteran guy. So I was thinking, and Jim Nill was probably thinking the same thing. How can I get the most out of my young core? And the answer was probably not with Pete DeBoer. So when I thought about it, it kind of makes sense to me, honestly.
Yeah, and when you talk about being proactive, that's kind of something unique for Jim Nill, I feel like, to this year especially. I mean, he let a couple of coach contract runs out in the past, and this year he's gotten really aggressive with trades. He got aggressive at the trade deadline, traded 3 first-round picks, which he only did one other time as the Stars GM, and now we see him making big moves with coaches as well. So it seems like Nill, even though he prefers to slow develop his teams and do it kind of the Detroit Red Wings way of getting to the playoffs every year, make sure we're good enough to do that, he's recognizing in the cap era, when it's time to capitalize, you got to go.
Yeah, I mean, he has the roster for it. I mean, I'm not wondering why, because he's always been like, depending on the situation, he's been acting on it. So that's actually pretty good. But maybe, and I'm just wondering here, I wonder if this is the last button for Jim Nill to push with what is it, 7th head coach in his tenure. So it's actually a lot. Old coaches for general manager, like generally. And I mean, I'm not advocating for anybody to replace Jim Nill at all. I'm just saying, like, he also has there's so many buttons to push also for general manager as well. And he basically pushed all the chips down to the table these last few trade deadlines. So we're going to see what happens next. And that's what's funny. And that's what actually really interesting about making roster projections for the next season and the season after, like what's going to happen. Because I think there's going to be some changes for sure. And that's the interesting part of conversation. Like, what are the changes?
And you kind of mentioned a second ago, Juraj, about the interview that Matt Duchene actually did on the ticket today. And for those of you who are listening right now, Juraj is it's 9:30 in the morning where he is at right now, even though it's 6:30 in the evening here. So if the whole time issue is a confusing thing, just know that. But I just want to read it real quick. I tried to find an audio recording of it. I couldn't find it. But Leo Asimakopoulos of Dallas Morning News was nice enough to put it up on X for us. But here it is. The end of the season was a little chaotic. I'll put it that way. That doesn't sound good already, especially for Matt Duchene. I don't have a ton to say about it because I feel Pete's an unbelievable coach and a really good person, and I can't thank him enough. He was a huge person that in my time in Dallas in terms of bringing me in and wanting me there and helping me with my game. I've learned a lot from Pete. If there's one thing I'm thinking about a lot from the season is how that all went down and that ended. It's really hard to put into words how I feel about Jim Nill, in my opinion. He is the best GM in the business and probably the best man in hockey. You can't beat him, so I think as people, we always want to take a side, one side or the other. And I truly can't because I am in a situation where both have had such a great influence on me, and I feel like I've had such a great relationship with both of them. It's very tough to put my thoughts into words right now with that whole thing. Obviously, Jim is incredible at what he does, and I have trust in him, but at the same time, it's hard to see a good man and a good coach in Pete go. I believe Pete still has a bright future as a coach, and I wish him absolutely nothing but the best. There's a lot there, Chris. I'll let you have the first shake at it. But is there anything specific in that really long quote that kind of sticks out to you?
I don't think it's really anything new. It's what we heard from insiders saying that the players didn't like how the season ended and how pretty much all of it was handled. It felt like there was panic, and it looked like there was panic. In Game 5 when Otter got pulled, the whole sequence was just chaotic, and even his post-game interview was chaotic. And he's also correct that Pete DeBoer is a great coach. I mean, his 3 years in Dallas might be the best 3 years that any coach has had in Dallas. But when you finish with 3 straight losses in the conference finals, and it looks like Juraj mentioned, you pushed all the buttons. There's nothing left that you could have done, and you had no more answers. I mean, then you're not needed anymore.
Well, and you're right. I'm just curious from your standpoint, because Chris and I have talked about this a whole lot. But hearing that, I don't know if you've heard that for the first time or if you've seen it for the first time or whatever. But what goes through your head when you hear all that?
You mean the Duchene interview?
Yes.
Actually, I read it this morning. That's why I wasn't sure it was yesterday or today. So yeah, the time difference is pretty crazy. But I wasn't surprised because I think he mentioned it already in his exit interview. Like he loved being coached by Pete DeBoer, and I think Jamie Benn, for example, loved being coached by Pete DeBoer as well. And I think lots of other veterans like Evgeny Dadonov. I think Pete DeBoer is, I think, the right coach for that kind of generation, like 30-something players that actually can absorb his way of messaging and actually be good at it. Because Jamie Benn had his renaissance, right, under Pete DeBoer. Evgeny Dadonov was very effective bottom 6 guy. And Matt Duchene has probably one of the 2 best regular seasons that he had like throughout all his career. I mean, he was not that good in playoffs, but for $3 million against the cap, I mean, you take that every day of the week and twice on Sunday, right?
Yeah, your highest point scorer for $3 million can't beat that.
Exactly, like that's what actually made their record in the regular season. I think it was mostly thanks to Matt Duchene, because he was a point per game guy at $3 million. I repeat that, like, that's crazy. So yeah. But you have to consider like this new generation with young core being 20-somethings like Roope Hintz, like Wyatt Johnston, Jason Robertson, Jake Oettinger, Miro Heiskanen, Thomas Harley, Leon Bischel. I still want to call him Biskel, by the way, but okay, Bixel, sorry, but he's Bischel. That's also confounding to me a little bit. So Liam Bischel, I'm gonna adhere to the American way, and. Yeah, I mean, there's this very good young core, which may need some, I'm not saying younger voice, but different voice and different approach. Because, the coach is like lots of persons in one body. So it's a psychologist. It's a coach, but it's also a teacher. And it's also like your friend sometimes and your enemy the other day. So it has to be balanced. And really, to be a good coach, you really have to be complete person in a way. And because I think during the maybe 90s and maybe 20 years ago and 10 years ago, the coaches were more like drill surgeons in hockey and maybe in sports in general. And now the times are changing, and also the coaches should be evolving, right? Mm-hmm. And you see how many young coaches there are in NHL right now. So I don't think this is a surprising move. Actually, that's why I said it's a proactive move by Jim Nill to probably go for somebody younger that's going to correlate better with his young core. I mean, it's pretty obvious to me right now.
That's a really interesting thought, because that fits the bill pretty much exactly what he's been talking about, and the fact that he's been using words like fresh and new and open-minded. And a lot of those are pointing to a couple of different candidates. And we mentioned a couple of them already, Jay Woodcroft being one of them. I still am surprised that he's not you didn't get a second gig at a head coaching job yet. It's a little weird. There must have been something that went down in Edmonton, but I don't know.
I heard he interviewed in Pittsburgh yes. this summer, and I think Seattle as well. So, but he didn't get the job. So, I mean, sometimes you just don't interview that good. That's probably all right. But he's gonna land somewhere soon. I was thinking about it. He was also my first thought, but somehow I think it's not gonna be him. But it's like he still has a chance, like to be that. But I think it's gonna be somebody internal, honestly.
And that's perfect segue into who I believe is going to be the next head coach of the Dallas Stars, and Neil Graham. And it just makes too much sense, right? And why you fire your head coach when every other coach is basically already taken. Dallas is the only team without a head coach right now, like the only one. And I highly doubt that the Oilers or the Florida Panthers are going to be firing their head coaches at the end of the season. I do not think that is going to happen. So Dallas is in a little bit of a special situation in that they are the only team that has a head coaching vacancy available for, a couple of opportunities. There's more candidates out there than people think. But when you look at the fact that all of the, at least what Jim Nill says, is that all of the assistants are going to return and they're looking for fresh. So he's open-minded to new guys. He's not necessarily looking for a veteran coach. I mean, all of those signs and more just point to Neil Graham. And Chris, you've had a lot of experience talking to him this year. What makes him a good fit right now for the Dallas Stars, considering that, he's only 40 years old. He is definition of young in terms of coach. So what do you think?
Yeah, he definitely has a lot more of the personality that you need, that Juraj was kind of mentioning. The Texas Stars team has had a lot of fun together this year, is what they've described it as over and over again. And you can see on the ice, I mean, the camaraderie between those guys, they were all super close. That's one of the big reasons why Petrovic decided to come back for the AHL run, is he just felt so connected to the guys down in Cedar Park that he said it would have felt wrong to him if he was staying at home while those guys were on the ice. So he was able to build a really strong culture in his dressing room this year. As far as tactics, I guess it's not dissimilar from Pete DeBoer. It's still offensive minded. It's still get up the ice quick. Blowing the zone is definitely a part of his tactics. Really like set face-off plays. His power play has been fantastic, and that's one thing that gets mentioned a lot when people see if maybe he's not going to be head coach, but maybe he'd be an assistant coach. Is they think he would go to be a power play guy. And he really committed to playing the spread this year in Texas, and it was super effective for them. They had one of the best power plays in the entire AHL. A big reason why they got through Milwaukee and they got as close to beating Abbotsford as they did is because how dominant that spread power play was for them.
And they did that with a lot of changes throughout the lineup throughout the year. That's just a normal AHL
lost
thing.
His two best players and two of the best AHL scorers last year. So,
right.
Yeah.
And then he just created two new ones in Ritzkovian and Huru. Now part of that is to Jim Nill's credit and to his scouting department's credit and finding those guys. But he still had a hand in developing those guys. And then Blumel just exploded this year. He led the AHL in goals with 40, I think, right? Or 39?
Something like that. I know he led in points, but if you want to talk about development, Blumel's an even better example. He went from, he developed a one-timer just this year alone, and it turned into his best skill. His finals 3 goals of the season were all off of the one-timer, and that's one of the reasons why that spread power play was working so well for him, is because if they could work it around and get Blumel in the sweet spot, he had a solid chance of rifling one home.
So you're right. You've also said as well that you think that Neil Graham is the most likely candidate to take over. Is there anything that we haven't discussed as to why that may be? Or you can just tell me your thoughts on why you think that he's going to be the next head coach?
Do you know what? I really have to give credit to Steven Mazur here from 100 Degrees Hockey, because he was actually the one who brought the attention to Neil Graham. It was like 4, maybe 5 years ago already. And he was like, this is the next NHL. This is the next Dallas Stars coach in the NHL. So that was the first time I actually got to know, and try to read about him. And everything he did, all his career path, he's been strongly connected to the Dallas Stars organization. He's probably the odds favorite to become the the head coach, but there is still a way he can be like assistant coach if they decide to hire, I don't know, David Carl or somebody like that, some fresh voice outside of the organization. Because yeah, I think there is this possibility that Neil Graham is on the bench next year, but not sure what position. But I mean, that's the fun part, right? Like Dallas is, you mentioned Dallas is the only club in the NHL that doesn't have coach right now, so they are in no rush. Honestly, they can just pick and choose. Like okay, we can interview this guy. We don't need to we don't need to hurry at all, because you're not chasing anybody, because everybody is set right now. So you're in a pretty good position. And when it comes to assistants, they still can be let go depending on who will be the next head coach. But if you hire somebody young, you probably have to tell him, these are your assistant coach. You don't get to choose. This is your first time NHL gig. You need help. That's what happened with Jim Montgomery as well. He got Rick Bounce, for example, as his assistant coach, because Rick was actually the one guiding Jim Montgomery. Even though Rick Bounce was like searching for NHL head coach for 20 years or something, and he gracefully accepted the job, and then he got the head coaching job after all. But if you are a young coach, I think the thinking is you will get your assistants handed to you. You don't get to choose. So you're not in a position to do that yet. So that's why the assistant coaches were, I mean, they as of now, they remain with the team. And I think 2, maybe 3 of them will also like interview for the job. I think Spot, I think Nazardine, and also maybe Donskoy will interview for the head coach as well. So everything is open right now.
I think that this was always plan B, in my personal opinion. I think plan A was Pete DeBoer. And then when everything went down the way that it did, you don't fire Pete DeBoer with 1 year left unless you have a backup plan. And Jim Nill is always about backup plans. He's always got a backup plan to a backup plan. So this is, I think it's Neil Graham's job to not necessarily to lose, but like that seems to make the most sense. But he's leaving his plan C open in case someone woos him over. Maybe J. Woodcroft comes in and has a really good interview or something like that. So he's leaving that plan C open, but he's happy with his plan B being Neil Graham, if that's the case. I think that's the reason why he felt comfortable in firing Pete DeBoer and letting this kind of thing organically happen. And he on the ticket today said he's going to take his time. He's not going to rush into this. He didn't have to. And he specifically said, because there's no one else that's looking for a head coaching job in the NHL. Like, I've got it. That I'm the only one. So it's interesting to see where this will lead for the Dallas Stars. But Neil Graham definitely, at least for me, seems to be the betting's odd for being the next head coach of the Dallas Stars. And it makes me really excited, to be completely honest with you, because I'm tired of these whole what some people call retreads, or what others refer to as the coaching carousel with the same guys. And there's still guys out there like Jay Woodcroft, like Gerard Gallant, Peter Laviolette is still out there as well. I don't think those guys would. I think they would do a fine job, but it wouldn't be the fresh, open-minded, new face that Jim Nill is kind of looking for, what Tom Gaglardi is looking for as well. So this will be really interesting to see and move forward. But
yeah, one other pinch point on Neil Graham is that this is a guy that has been in the Stars organization his entire coaching career too.
14 years,
and at this point in his career, if he doesn't get this opportunity when it's so open and available, he's going to get an NHL job somewhere. I mean, I think it's very unlikely that Neil Graham is the head coach of the Texas Stars next year. So one way or another, he's going to get promoted. And if it's not with the same organization, you're going to lose a guy who you've kind of been developing and mentoring for over a decade.
Like he was indirectly in the organization before Jim Nill was.
He was directly in the organization before Jim Nill was.
Well, like he was in the ECHL is what I mean, but with the Idaho Steelheads. But like you get the idea. You get my point. But like it's going to be really interesting. There's some other names that have been thrown out there. Harrison over here saying, "What about Steve Ott?" That really makes me excited because I'm just a big lover of Steve Ott. Todd Nelson obviously is a obvious candidate as well. In terms of internal, but do any of those guys seem to overtake Neil Graham, or if they come in and woo Jim Nill, like I said?
One interesting tidbit about Todd Nelson is that what I heard, like the rumor on the street, is like he doesn't interview that well, but he's a very good coach. I don't know how he is with communicating with young players, but he's been massively successful in the AHLs, and he has historical ties to the Stars organization as well. So he is one of the options. Steve Ott, like that would be really fun just for the memes. Like you have two authors.
I would love it.
On the
Absolutely
team, so
love it.
it's gonna be that would be fun. He was also one of my favorite players, like growing up. I mean, when he was on the first line with Modano, that was some crazy fun times. So, but he is outside candidate for sure. But Chris made a huge point. Like, if you are nurturing your guy for such a long time, okay, maybe somebody woos you, right? Okay, that's fine. I just really think it's going to be Neil Graham, though. I still think that. Like, all of these guys, they just don't move the needle that much for me. But I'm not in the interviewing process, so maybe somebody else will pop up and woo Jim Nill. So let's wait and see. But as Lou Lamorello said, it's really true to this day. If you have time, use it. Jim Nill has all the time in the world right now, so he can use it.
Chris, what do you think about Steve Ott being a coach? Like that just it makes me so excited. Again, he was one of my favorites growing up too. Like everyone talks about, like if you're like in the old guard, you talk about those kind of players like David Gagne and John Sim and Dave Reed and those nasty guys of the 90s, and then you've got the guys of the 2000s and 2010s with like Roussel and Otter and Morrow, and like in a way, the style that Steve Ott played is kind of the style that a lot of Stars fans are complaining about that was missing from their game.
Right. It would be interesting to see if his coaching style would be able to drag that in any way. I'm sure it would. I mean, he played it that way. I'm sure he thinks that's the right way to play hockey too. The weird thing is he has experience as an assistant coach. You don't really know what does it look like with him at the helm. Is he leaning more on his assistants, which might be okay if you have guys like Nazardine and potentially Neil Graham coming up to run your two different units? Maybe that's okay. But if you're talking about head coach experience, Neil Graham has more. If you're talking about NHL experience, Steve Ott has more. So that's also, that's one where you kind of got to weigh which one's more important to you.
Well, and guys like Steve Ott he's had a ton of experience. Well, not a ton of experience, but he's had recent experience with Jim Montgomery. I mean, if you want someone like Jim Montgomery, I still to this day believe that if Jim Montgomery had never been fired by Jim Nill because of off-ice things, that he would still to this day still be the Dallas Stars head coach. That's my personal opinion, just because his philosophy is the right way to do it. But I mean, maybe some of that is rubbing off on Steve's spot. He's seeing the way that Jim Montgomery kind of coaches the game and stuff like that, and maybe that can, be to the benefit of the Dallas Stars organization. So
and it's also not only about the voice, about communicating, because there is this one thing that when Pete DeBoer was hired, or 1 year after, or maybe during his first season, I was actually reading some of the comments of all Vegas players on the change. Like, what was the change since Vegas moved from Pete DeBoer to Bruce Cassidy? And what they actually said, all them saying one thing, like defensive coverage, because Pete DeBoer likes to play man-on-man defense, and we've seen it's really tough to do that when you are playing against the likes of McDavid and Draisaitl and all of these guys that actually can beat your man pretty easily. And then you get lost in the shuffle. And what Vegas players actually said was like the change from Pete DeBoer to Bruce Cassidy was like the biggest one in the defensive coverage, not the messaging, not anything at all. Defensive coverage and playing the zone, not playing man-on-man defense. And that was the first year they won a cup. And I really didn't like how the Stars played in their zone for the last 3 years. For some reason, it has been effective in the regular season because if you play man on man in the regular season, you will get the results probably if you have the players like Heiskanen, Harley, or Lindell, and if you have Attinger in goal and backups like Wedgwood or DeSmith, they're gonna bail you out many times. But in playoffs, when the going gets tough and you play like against the best of the best, that's where the buck stops, and that's how you got beat by Edmonton in the last 2 seasons. Like first loss against Vegas in conference final was acceptable for me because they were just on the up and coming run, and everybody was excited about Stankoven and Bork and everybody else, Harley. But these 2 losses, I would say, okay, the forwards didn't score, but the defensive coverage was lackluster at best. And that's what I didn't like from the coaching's perspective. And that's why I think like if there is a new voice, he's going to address that for sure, because this is not the way. Like how the Stars have been playing defensively in the playoffs is not the way how you win Stanley Cup.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I wasn't really understanding how big of a deal it was until, and I'll do their plug for them, DLLS, to Craig Ledwid's, he kind of enlightened my eyes a little bit. And it seems like almost after every single game, he would mention, whether it was a win or a loss, he would mention the defensive coverage and how he hated the man on man. And he'd point out and be like, okay, see, this is why this doesn't work this way. And it mostly gets on when they get stuck in their own zone. When they get stuck in their own zone and they play man on man, they can't get the puck out. And that's something that they harped on for like an absolute long time. So, what does Neil Grimm do? Does he let Elaine Nazardine, change it up and, say, hey, have free reign, go check it out. Maybe they go with more of a zone, or maybe they do a 50-50 split or whatever. I don't know. But obviously the man on man is not working. So
yeah, when you get stuck in your own zone on the defense, like you're saying, you're kind of relying on your defensemen to make great plays with the puck when they get the chance to. And when you have pairs like Lindell and Ceci, they're not going to do that. And that's why Lindell has gotten so good at the high flip, because he's not great at finding those outlet passes, but boy, can he flip the puck out of the zone.
And I mean, also when you get like players that can protect the slot, you don't like really have to have those. Some players can fit in the system, but if you ask Cody Ceci to play man-on-man defense against Leon Draisaitl or Connor McDavid, I mean, that's just pretty unfair. It's not fair to Cody Ceci with the abilities that he has. So, I mean, that's all I'm going to say.
Well, we'll have to wait and see what the decision will be from Jim Nill over the next couple of weeks. At the press conference, he said about 2 to 3 weeks. So I don't know if that's actually his timeline. You would think that he would want to have a decision done before July 1st. I think that's the unofficial deadline. But I also wouldn't be surprised if it went past that, to be completely honest with you. We'll just have to wait and see. Any final thoughts on this?
He also said he wasn't trading Stankoven, and Gillardy said that he loved Pete DeBoer, and here we are. So
very true. Okay. Not a quick hard right turn, but we're gonna take a right turn into our next little topic. And the main reason why I wanted to have a discussion here tonight is the whole Robertson fiasco. I still do not believe that there is a whole lot of credence to this, to this story that Robertson is being shopped around. Obviously, are GMs talking all the time? Yes, I believe that is absolutely a thing. And I mean that they should, that they're not doing their due diligence. I use those 2 words a lot. But Jim Nill, if it's a trade that improves his team, then he's going to do it. And right now, in order to improve your team, the number one thing you've got to do is to increase your cap space. And that's why there have been rumors about Jason Robertson being, on the trade block. And it all started with Jeff Merrick of the Sheet of Daily Faceoff. And nothing he said when I listened to the initial thing that started this whole media firestorm, nothing he said was wrong. Everything made complete sense. And maybe I think that's why a lot of people are starting to run with this idea, including me. I ran with it a little bit, and I found out that there could be some reason why that they would be looking at this. So first off, let me get your thoughts on is there any fire to this? And Chris, I'll let you go first.
Well,
And is this an actual thing?
Well-
Do we see Robertson traded?
if Elliot Friedman's talking about it, then there's higher up people talking about it too. So it's not nothing.
And that was yesterday or the day before?
I don't remember.
Yeah, and Chris is talking about 32 Thoughts, the podcast, if you care to go and listen to that. But I mean, Juraj, what do you think?
Well, that it comes from Jeff Marek, I'm not surprised. Jeff Marek has been historically pretty well informed about the ongoings in the Stars organization. My hunch is that he talks directly to Tom Gallardi. That's just my hunch. Because I think they're well connected. He always speaks so glowingly about Gallardi, how he loves hockey. I think they are talking. It's pretty normal. Jeff Marek is asking, and Tom Gallardi sometimes he talks with media. That's okay. I think, honestly, long story short, I don't think it's the move, and I'll tell you why. First of all, Jason Robertson is not some expendable asset that you don't need, because you really need those kind of guys. I think it's real. As Chris said, it's a good point. Once Elliot Friedman is talking about it, there is some smoke. And now the reason is, or maybe the question is like, okay, so first of all, why? Yeah. Has Jason Robertson not been good for your team in his career? Has he been overpaid? No. Does he still have a contract for next year? Yes. Is the contract bad? No, it's pretty good actually. The value is pretty good. So why would you want to trade him just for the sake of trading him? If you want to clear out cap space, there are some ways to do it. If you want to clear out cap space, first candidate, everybody's talking about it. It's not secret. It's Matt Dumba. Like, why the hell did you need to sign both Dumba and Lyubushkin last year? It still frazzles my mind a little bit. I was tweeting about it the day it happened. It was like one of the worst moves in Jim Nill's GM history to sign both these guys to a cumulative value of $7 million. Jason Robertson makes 7.7. So if you can choose between having Dumba and Lyubushkin in your press box or having Jason Robertson scoring important goals, I don't know. I mean, the choice is pretty obvious, but nevertheless, I haven't seen any reasonable trade proposal on the Twitter sphere or anywhere else. Like, I haven't seen one. I've seen like 459 trade proposals for Robo. 0 made sense for Dallas.
Yeah.
Because if you want to trade Jason Robertson for somebody, it better be somebody good, because you are in win now mode. You don't need prospects. You don't need draft capital. If you would need draft capital, you wouldn't need to trade for Mikko Rantanen, right? You don't go and back up. If you traded for Mikko Rantanen literally 2 months ago or 3 months ago, so you don't do that. If you wanted draft capital, you just keep your picks and keep Logan Stankoven. So okay, so that's the first argument there. Second argument there. Okay, Stars need right-handed D. Fine. Who is available? That's worth the package with Jason Robertson. You know what? Actually, this morning I was like, it just crossed my mind for some reason, and I don't feel good about it. I have this like deja vu that could happen. And do you remember the famous tweet? The trade is 1-for-1. When the Edmonton Oilers traded their star winger Taylor Hall for the Adam Larson. And I'm just worried if something like this is going to happen to the Dallas Stars. I mean, at the end, like Adam Larson was fine addition to the Edmonton decor, but he was no Taylor Hall, and everybody hated the move because you are in no position to win a trade, or at least have a draw on a trade, have a fair trade, if you have Jason Robertson in it. Like, what are the players available that can be like let's say the same value? Because you don't do the trade of Robertson for draft picks. Like, that doesn't really make sense if you're a win now mode, as I said. So there is like Noah Dobson from the Islanders, right? Is he available? Well, possibly. Is he gonna sign long term in Dallas? Well, You would hope so. And then what's the price? Let me tell you, the price is not gonna be lower than 10 million AAV. So, I mean, you can trade Robertson. I'm not against the idea. People were saying like, you don't want to trade Robertson because you like the player. No. Every player is expendable, but for the right price, right? Maybe except for Conor McDavid, but hell, even Gretzky was traded, right? So that's the old saying. So everybody can be traded. You still have one more RFA year of Jason Robertson. No, actually two. Sorry, you have 2 more RFA years. Yep. So he's gonna be RFA until he's gonna be UFA in 2 years. My bad. You still have 1 more year of Jason Robertson at very good price. Why would you want to move him now? If you want to move him, okay, just move him next summer when he's still RFA, same as Matthew Tkachuk was. Because then he's due for a big race. And I think still they're gonna make the room. If they would want to, they would gonna make the room for Jason Robertson and for Thomas Harley, because it's possible, as I demonstrated on the X or Twitter. It's possible. Yes, you need to work around some cap shenanigans, like to ship off some really bad contract you signed. I mean Jim Nill, and there's gonna be some work around, but you just don't go around and trade Jason Robertson just for nothing. I mean, if there is a trade, it better be a good one, because it can set the Stars back. Because Jason Robertson, and sorry for the ranting a little bit, but Jason Robertson has been underrated by the media. He's been underrated by the Stars fan as well. Like some of them has been really underrating him, because what I've been hearing, like, oh, he's a goal scorer. Yeah, he scored goals. Like, yeah. Apart from scoring goals, which is like the toughest thing to do in the league, he also has really fantastic defensive ability. His stick work is amazing. His hockey IQ is amazing. And what I've been saying, like, he's been very good, like this defensive winger, like kind of remind me of Jere Ledman a little bit, because of his defensive ability and the ability to score as well. So he's been really budding into this like overall superstar that has both offensive and defensive abilities. You basically, like, you stumbled upon him on the draft. Like he was drafted 39. Yep. I mean, you get the win right there. You sign him to a pretty good extension. I have to say, these mid-term extensions for 4 years when the player is still RFA are pretty good. And now what you're going to want to do, you want to sign him long-term at, let's say, the best value you can get for him, because the cap is going to rise immensely in the next 4-5 years. Immensely. Like, this wouldn't be a conversation in 4 or 5 years, because people get so focused on the nominal number, on the AAV. Oh my goodness, Jason Robertson cannot make more than $11 million. Oh my goodness. But in 4 or 5, or maybe even 3, it's going to be like 7 million now. So it's really not that bad. You just need to really live through the next maybe 1 or 2 seasons. But yeah, I mean, I haven't seen a trade proposal for Robo yet that made sense for me, but I'm happy to see one. I'm honestly happy to see one if somebody proposed something. I was thinking, like, just one idea on the top of my, I'm not proposing anything, just in my head, like, okay, you want to move Robertson, you want to have Dobson involved. Okay, maybe you work around that form of bid, like you ship off Matt Dumba with Robertson, you get Dobson and some forward, like controllable assets back, something like that. But it's really tough to do, honestly.
Yep. To play devil's advocate, the one way you could trade Jason Robertson without getting, like you're saying, significant draft cap or capital back is in form of players now, is if you have a contract signed up, ready to go. And that would be in the form of, it seems less likely now, but just for instance, an Aaron Ekblad would be like the perfect fit on your right side. If his contract's ready to go and you just have to have space, that's the only situation where I see moving Jason Robertson for less than what he's worth could make sense.
Yeah, the funny thing is about Aaron Ekblad is that you can have Aaron Ekblad in free agency for free, just for money. You just need to clear out cap space for him, which you can do by offloading some of
Duchene,
the
Dumba, Marchment,
non-performative assets. Yeah, Lyubushkin, Dumba and Dumba combined make what Aaron Ekblad would probably ask in the free agency. I mean, he's probably gonna stay in Florida, but even though, if let's say he signed him to 7 times 7 million type of contract, you can make space for Aaron Ekblad if you really want the guy. That's why I'm saying, like, I mean, there are other ways to do it. Jason Robertson to me seems like a lazy choice, honestly. And this narrative of like, yeah, they're starting to clear out cap space. Yeah, they do, but like Jason Robertson is not gonna ask for $11 million next season. It's the season after you're worried about. So you just work around that because there's your star player. Like, I mean, I don't get it, honestly, but as I said, I'm happy to hear some of the trade proposals. I haven't seen one logical yet.
So I've got two for you actually, and they're kind of the same, but they are different teams. I'm gonna start with this. I don't think Robertson's going to be traded. That's my personal opinion. I feel very confident in saying that. I'm like 99% sure that Jason Robertson is not going to be traded. And I also felt very sure that Pete DeBoer was going to return as the head coach of the Dallas Stars, and I was wrong about that too. So I mean, never say never, in the words of Justin Bieber. But the thing I hated seeing on X was that they were, I think it was NHL Rumor or whatever, something talking about what Elliot Friedman said. Jason Robertson is not being shopped around to try and get a Granlund extension done. That's not the reason why he might be traded. Okay, because obviously between Granlund and Robertson, that's not even close. Not even in the same stratosphere. The reason why he could possibly be traded is because he is a cap casualty of signing Mikko Rantanen. Now, when you look at Mikko Rantanen compared to Jason Robertson, that gets you in a little bit more of a, okay, you can compare your assets and decide which one it is. Okay, trading Jason Robertson away is the cap casualty of signing Mikko Rantanen, not because you're trying to get an extension done with Mikael Granlund. That's the way that I'm looking at it. I think that's a very poor way of how Elliot Friedman tweeted it. I understand what he's saying. Obviously, Jason Robertson, if you trade him, then you have room to sign Granlund. Yes, but that's not the reason why you would be trading Jason Robertson.
Yeah, the way that was framed is horrible.
Yes, the way that it was framed is horrible. That's the second thing I wanted to say. Now, the other thing with trading Robertson is that the thing you're looking for, it more than anything, is that cap space is gold, right? That's the number one thing that you are trying to get. And that's unfortunate because that means that Jason Robertson is expendable, because 7.75 is still a lot. And I understand everything that you said, Juraj, as well. But the other thing is that the three guys that I mentioned off the top, Lyubushkin, Dumba, Marchment, they do not have near the same value that Jason Robertson does. And in order to free up cap space and try and fill a hole on the right-handed side and maybe even get a roster player back on the forward side, you have to be willing to give up value in order to get cap space. And the other thing I'll say about this before I give you the two trades is that I don't think Dallas wins either one of these trades, because they will be giving up the best player in the deal. But that's the way that I look at trades. No matter what you do, unless you trade Jason Robertson for Connor McDavid or Nathan McKinnon, he is going to be the best player in whatever deal you get, because all the teams know that you're in cap struggle right now. Like,
I mean, let me just insert one quick little thought. People tend to really like isolate themselves on the AAV. I would advise for them to isolate themselves on the contract performance. So you sign Jason Robertson to the 7.7 million, but he actually plays like a $12 million player.
Yeah.
You sign Mason Marchment to 4.5. Well, he's been good. He plays like 5, maybe 6 million player. He's been actually pretty good.
He has.
And you sign Lyubushkin to 3.25. He plays like league minimum guy. You sign Matt Dumba. He doesn't even play. So, yeah. I mean, if you were thinking about like more contextual thing, if you want to win next, I would guess the goal of the Dallas Stars is to win Stanley Cup next season. Still is. They are still in a win now mode. To win Stanley Cup, you have to have these great contracts performing well. Look at Carter Verhaeghe in Florida. Look at Ivan Rodriguez. Look at Sam Bennett. These are not players, also the players, but their deals, their contracts. The performances of their contracts actually help you build like quality depth. That's what I was saying about Matt Duchene. His contract, $3 million, was perfect. I loved that he was a $3 million player on my team because the contract performance was great. That's why they had such a great regular season record. If you trade not Jason Robertson, but his contract performance for next season, that's where the loss is starting to pile up, because you really don't get a better value for next season than Jason Robertson at 7.75. You really cannot find that kind of deal. You really cannot. But yeah, go ahead with the trade proposal. Sorry about that.
And again, this is not because I want to trade Jason Robertson or anything. It's just that he's out there. A lot of people are talking about it, and like you said, Chris, if Elliot Friedman, the insider of the NHL, I would argue, is talking about it, then there must be something there. So what I came up with was 2 trade proposals, and what I will also say is there's no retention, there's basically no picks involved. You could throw in a sweetener if you're Dallas if you want to, but here's who I got. Basically, the 2 trade partners that I think the Stars should target is 1, Ottawa, and 2, Calgary. For Calgary, what Calgary would be giving up is 2 players, and they would be giving up Blake Coleman at his contract, which is a little high for what he provides, in my opinion, and then Rasmus Andersson. And then the Stars would be giving up Jason Robertson and Matt Dumba. And Chris, I know you don't like him very much, but you could throw Christian Kyrou in there if you want to add in an extra asset for Calgary to maybe consider it even further. But there's several reasons why I think this trade would work for both sides. Obviously, if you're Calgary, you get the best player possible, right? You get a guy who's 25, a guy who is at least a point per game player, if not has a higher ceiling. He's scored over 100 points in the NHL. He can. There's some unprovenness in the playoffs, although there is some experience there in the playoffs we've seen. He ended the playoffs last year, this past playoff performance with 3 straight games and 3 straight goals and 3 straight games to end the playoffs. And then they also they do take on more cap, but they've got the cap room in order to weaponize that and get the best player available in the trade. For Dallas, the reason why I think this is gold and why it works out is because first and foremost, you get $2.1 million in cap space to do even more upon what these other 2 guys can bring. And Rasmus Andersson, he plays top line minutes in Calgary. He's right-handed. In Dallas, I don't think he would be the top guy on the top pairing. I think he would probably play in a second pairing role, probably with Thomas Harley or with Miro Heiskanen, whatever you want to look at. It doesn't matter. And then for Blake Coleman, his cap hit is a little high, which is why I think they would also be willing to part with that. Calgary would. And it's not for an extended long period of time. It's for 2 years. And I think it's 5.9 million, if I remember off the top of my head.
Right. I think 4.9, but
4.9. Okay. So, but what this also does is that, yes, it brings in the whole Texas aspect. That's just a side intangible. It's fun. It's awesome for this. But what this guy brings is you can pencil him in for about 15 to 20 goals, which is fine. Okay. That's again, little high cap hit for what he brings. But more importantly, he plays the right style in the playoffs. And the question is at an older age, is he able to do that still in the playoffs? And we haven't seen him in the playoffs recently, but he has the Stanley Cup pedigree. He's won cups with Tampa Bay. He was a key guy in several of their runs on that third line, which is where I've got him slotted in if this trade goes through. So with all of those aspects intertwined, I think there's reasons why both teams could possibly go through with this deal. And then on top of that, Calgary also has some young guys on the back end in their decor who are young, who are starting to kind of push for time up there. Now, all of this is, again, depends on what Calgary wants to do. If they see themselves as a playoff team, they probably don't do this deal, even if it is Jason Robertson. But I've talked a lot. What are y'all's thoughts? Y'all think I'm crazy? Does it make sense at least?
Yes, you are. Did you like the Doncic trade?
Heck no.
This is the Doncic trade. You just recreated Doncic trade in the NHL terms, basically. You talked about playoff performing, winning cups, and everything. That's Anthony Davis right there. Jason Robertson is Luka Doncic. You don't trade him, especially not for this kind of package. Sorry about that, Ryan. I just hated the idea just from the get-go. But what I'm gonna say, to be productive in the discussion, I like the idea of going after Rasmus Andersson. But what happens? Let's say, okay, let's say you do this just for the sake of the argument. And what if he walks next year? He's going to be UFA. Right. He's going to need a big raise, same as Jason Robertson.
That was my point. Yeah, you don't have to ask for just as big a raise as Jason Robertson's going to. So you're right back in the exact same situation.
Since he's like UFA, you can still trade for the guy like with different assets. Like you have, I don't know, he's a good UFA target like at the trade deadline for a contending team, right? Okay, so what do we have to do to get him? Okay, send some, I don't know, first round pick for 2027. I think they still have that. And send Nils Lundqvist. That's it. And you will get Rasmus Andersson. And you don't need to give up Jason Robertson at all. And as far as, let's say, I don't want to sound rude, but taking out the trash, which means Matt Dumba's contract. Imagine this, like, imagine you have a Ferrari at home and you have really just trashy car that doesn't work. Are you willing to trade one Ferrari in Jason Robertson and the trash car in Matt Dumba for, let's say, used BMW in Rasmus Andersson and Mazda in Blake Coleman? Like, do you want to do this? Like, okay, maybe you like Mazda durability. Okay, maybe you like BMW long range, able to drive. But are you doing this trade? Like, that's why it really doesn't work for me. Like, and all due respect, like.
No, I understand completely. Go for it.
I've seen better ideas. Like to be the asshole. Like I've seen better ideas.
All right, next idea, Ryan. This one's better for sure.
No, it's about the same thing, and it's basically the same idea. So you would trade. And the other thing about this I should have said is that if you're trading Jason Robertson, whatever team is getting Jason Robertson is also getting Matt Dumba. In my opinion, I think they're attached at the hip. You don't just trade Jason Robertson and keep Matt Dumba on the side.
May I give you the trade? May I give you the trade idea on the top of my head?
Sure. Yeah. No, go ahead. It's probably better than the other one I had.
Jason Robertson, and Nils Lundqvist for New York Islanders, Noah Dobson, and Callum Ritchie. That's one of the trades that I thought about it that could make sense in a way because Callum Ritchie is going to be a really great center. You're going to need centers. It's like really top-end prospect that can play already. Maybe next season, like it's the Logan Stankoven category player. He's cost-controlled, and you get big, like great like right-hand defenseman. Like these are the kind of trades like I'm thinking about. How can you get good this next season and the 5 season after, as Jim Nill is saying, like with your trade into maybe next year, Rasmus Andersson could be gone, and Blake Coleman, like I don't know, he's going to be 35 or something. So that's I'm trying to, and I think Jim Nill is also trying to target young, quality, cost-controlled players. If we are talking really like this trade talks, like this would be my counter idea to be productive.
Right.
No, and go ahead, Chris. I've talked too much. Go ahead.
Well, and I think that's where most hockey fans who definitely undervalue Jason Robertson would look at that trade proposal and think it's crazy too. I mean, a lot of people are saying, what if they just trade Jason Robertson to Carolina for their 2 first-round picks back? And it's like, like people aren't even speaking the same language when it comes to Jason Robertson. So I
had actually fun with it because it was Jeff Marek like speedballing. I was like, would you trade Logan Stankoven, Jason Robertson, and let's say 2/3 round picks for Mikko Rantanen? I'm like, I wouldn't probably. Like that doesn't make sense. Like math doesn't math at all at that trade.
Right. So it's really it's going to come down to how does Nill value him, and how does whoever he's talking to value Jason Robertson? Because obviously there is wide ranging opinion on what his true value is.
And for me, his value is 10 million plus. That's where he should be, in my opinion. It is, again,
Well,
you're right.
Well,
Like
when you got a 10 million plus player for 775, then he's worth more than 10 million plus.
Okay, well, there you go. That's also a good point too. And I've seen projections as high as 11 to 11.5. I think 11.5 is the highest I've seen. And even then, that makes some sense because it will be high for, like you've said, you're right. It'll be high for a couple of years, and then as the contract goes on, it'll get better. I mean, a perfect example of that is Clayton Keller in that was Phoenix, now Utah. When he first signed that contract, it was like 8 point something million or 7 point around there. And everyone was like, holy crap. Like that's not a very good contract for a kid who's very unproven. And now it looks like a steal because Clayton Keller is over a point per game player for the last 2 or 3 seasons. And he's doing that at a $12 to $14 million pace right now because he signed at 7.8 or 8.2 or whatever it is. So
one thing that hasn't been mentioned, I think, at all, like in this trade Robertson discourse, is like maybe, just maybe, Stars, because he didn't sign his contract until the very start of the season when he signed his current contract.
Training camp, yeah.
Training camp. He missed the training camp, and maybe the Stars. I think probably, if I were to guess, Tom Gallardi did not like that. If I just were to guess, he held out and like squeezed.
That was his best start to the season he's had in his career, though, too. Yeah, that's the funny thing.
Like, maybe the feeling in the Stars organization was like he squeezed us, which in fact he didn't. So they're maybe trying to get ahead of the game, but by trying to get ahead of the game, like you're panicking and like you may be in the panic move, trying to move a guy who doesn't really need to be moved. As I explained, Chris had a great point. Like he's a $12 million player right now. You have him at set 7.75. You don't need to trade him now. If there is a time to trade him, it's next summer, where he's still RFA. You can still control his rights. So yeah, I mean, that's the Matthew Tkachuk situation. Next summer, you can trade him. You can get a haul for him, and yeah. That's pretty much all the discourse there is. Like,
I think that's exactly why he's in trade talks right now. Is I think Stars are afraid he's gonna push for as much money as he can,
he should. He
deserves it
for a player like
he deserves
Robertson.
It. Yeah, he really is. I know some fans, they don't like it. Jason Robertson is gonna sign. If he signs for 8 years, he signs for $12 million. His next deal is gonna be around 12, maybe 11. If the deal is starting at 11, it's already good. If it's under 11, it's a hometown discount, really.
Yes.
The Stars fans, they do not like this idea, but because that's what I was telling you before, they are focused on the number. They are not focused on the cap percentage. That's the point. I think everybody's still living in this flat cap era where anything above 10 is crazy. No, soon we're going to see contracts like $50 million of value. Kirill Kaprizov is going to sign a contract. I think it's going to have $15 million AAV. I really think that because of how the cap situation is going, how the NHL revenues are going. They are so high, and the cap is going to have to like second the revenue. It was supposed to be already 100 million for next season, but what the players opted, and also NHLPA opted, was like for a continual growth season and season after. So they have this sort of security, so that they know it's going to rise. I've seen some projections based on projecting revenue. It's going to be so high, and people don't take this into account. Yeah, you will have to probably suffer 1, possibly 2 seasons if you are a Dallas Stars fan, but that's what happens when you are contending for a cup. You spend to the cup, you try to work around the edges, you try to add on the deadline when the contracts are at a better price, to be honest with you.
Sorry, I don't know why it wasn't unmuting for a second. Everything you've said, you're right. I was entertaining the idea of trading Jason Robertson just because it was interesting and it gives us something to talk about. And again, where there's smoke, there's fire, and all of that stuff. But this is why we have conversations like this, and why I wanted to have you on, is because the more that we talk about it, the more that you go through all the situations, the more it just makes sense just to hold on to him, even because you have his rights more than anything. That's the biggest thing, is that you have RFA rights over him next year, and then again, if it's still not working out, then and you absolutely have to have the cap space in order to re-sign Harley and all of that other stuff, you can trade him then.
Yep.
So
and that's what I was like, the idea. Let's say Robertson and Lundqvist for Callum Ritchie and Noah Dobson. If the two fan bases don't like it concurrently, if the Dallas fans don't like the idea and the Islanders fans don't like the idea, then it could be possibly a good trade. Because what I've seen, like some crazy proposals, everybody's trying to get advantage of the Dallas situations right now, and that's exactly when you don't sell. You don't sell when you are in panic move.
Point of weakness.
So, yeah, you have to do it on your strength, as you said. Yeah, that's a great point. You have to sell on your strength. Okay, if I were to move Jason Robertson, I don't need to move him. If I were to move him, it's gonna have to include a right-handed defenseman, top pairing one, and NHL already A-level prospect. And I can include Nils Lundqvist to make the money work, something like that, and draft picks and whatnot. But this is probably like the only idea I had in my mind. Okay, this could possibly work. And then the Islanders would say, well, maybe not, thank you. Okay, fair. And maybe these are the discussions that Jim Nill has right now. And I have nothing against that. If he talks with Buffalo and let's say we trade Robertson for Dahlin, I don't know, but just the idea. Okay, okay. The Buffalo probably says no. Okay, fine, let's move on. That's the trade talks I'm hoping he has, not how many draft picks can I get for Jason Robertson.
I believe you. We're speculating. We don't have any insider information on that, but that makes a lot of sense to me. It really does. But we'll have to wait and see what Jim Nill decides to do here. He's got a lot to do. This is why he gets paid the big bucks. I mean, the other thing, the reason why, and to kind of wrap it full circle before we wrap it up here, the reason why he fired Pete DeBoer is because he wants to be the man driving the ship and winning the Stanley Cup. I think that's why he made the harsh decision that he's seen as more of a conservative guy, but that's why he made that decision to get rid of Pete DeBoer. And I'm sure there's other things that we don't know about right now that will come out in the later years and stuff like that. But we'll have to wait and see what he decides to do. But you're right. Before we wrap it up, can you tell everybody where they can find you if they want to follow you?
Well, I'm on Twitter. Yeah, I used to write on my Substack, but the reason I basically started writing is because I missed some good quality Stars coverage at that time. That has been well adjusted. So we have great writers about the Stars in form of David Castillo, Robert Tiffin. I don't want to forget about anybody
There's
else.
A lot of good ones, yeah.
Especially, yeah, you also write articles. I saw that as well. So Chris is also contributing for 100 Decades Hockey. So the Stars coverage is great. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just let's say shit tweeting sometimes and on Twitter. So that's basically it. So you can find me on Twitter. So yeah, I wanted to just ask you one more thing before we go. Just quick yes and no about the UFAs, if they think they are staying or they are moving. So that's actually, I think Steve Daniel does this with Chris Johnston on their podcast. Like, if you think this player is gone or he stays with a team. So just go with quick round with the UFAs, and then we can wrap it up.
Okay. Do we each get one?
Yeah. Let's just say a name, and everybody says yes, he stays or he goes, just without explanation, stays or goes.
Okay. Let's start with Duchene. Chris, what do you think?
Gonzo.
I think he's gone too.
Yeah.
I want to explain so badly. Granlund.
Gonzo.
Yeah, the reports are like he stays, but I think he stays, but I don't think it's a good decision.
I think he stays too. Cody Ceci.
No.
Oh.
Yeah,
No,
Gonzo.
no discussion there. No discussion there.
No offense to Cody Ceci. Who else have we got? Lundqvist.
Stays.
He probably stays. Yeah, no one else will sign him.
Stays. I agree. Let's see. Who else is there?
Jamie Benn.
Jamie Benn.
Jamie Benn.
Oh, Jamie Benn. Oh, yes, stays.
Bro, forgot about that guy. Yeah, I think he stays, and he's gonna get signed for too much.
I think he signs for 1 million with performance bonuses.
I hope
I agree. That's about where I'm at too. I think he gets 1 million. Colin Blackwell.
Yeah.
Colin Blackwell.
If he wants league minimum again, sure.
Yeah, I think Colin Blackwell stays.
I think he's Gonzo. Maverick Bork.
Well, RFA, but he'll stay.
He's offer sheeted.
He might get. He's probably gonna get offer sheeted.
I think he stays.
I
want to explain it. I can't.
I would hope so. Yeah.
Matej Blumel. He's a Group 6 UFA. He's kind of weird.
Yeah, I think he's Group 6 UFA. I think he's gone.
I think he stays. He's got the state of Texas tattooed on his forearm. So I think he's got some hometown love.
Okay, so maybe he's gonna be drafted by Houston in the expansion draft then.
Oh, don't do that. I think he's Gonzo too, and for other reasons that I don't want to get in, or that I want to get into, but in interest of time. Is that everybody?
I think so.
I think it is.
Yeah,
let's
let's
just say Mason Marchment, just for the sake of discussion.
Stays.
I think he's gone because I don't think Robertson's getting traded. I think Marchment is.
Yeah, there's good argument for him to stay and to be gone. I think he's gone.
All right, so I'm in the minority on that one. Okay. Well, again, Juraj, thank you so much for joining us. And as always, you can go and check him out on X/Twitter, whatever it's called nowadays, at Eurocrawl right there, Jurokral. And I tagged the wrong Juraj Kralik when I did the social media post. Facepalm. But anyways, thank everyone for watching us live. If you have been, there's even more of you who are listening afterwards. Again, please click like and subscribe. Hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. Leave us a 5-star review wherever that may be. Last plug here as well. We are bringing back our Stars fan stories segment that we did 3 years ago in the offseason. So if you are a Stars fan and you've wanted to be on a podcast, and especially a Dallas Stars podcast, now is the chance for you to do so. You can go and check out social media handles for @StarcasticR anywhere and everywhere. There is a link for you to fill out a Google form if you will do that. And if you are selected, then we will get in contact with you and set up a time when we can do that. So actually, Juraj was part of that. Part of that all those years ago. I can't believe it's been 3 years since we did that.
Oh, 3 years, yeah.
Anyways, thanks again, Juraj, for joining us. And alongside him and Chris, my name is Ryan. We'll catch you guys on the flip side. Hope you guys have a fantastic morning, afternoon, evening. Whenever you guys are listening, Dallas is not trading Jason Robertson. Go Stars.